Alright guys, welcome back to Miami Dolphins Syndicate. We are here together in the studio, as you'll hopefully see for every single preview from now on. We got the Chargers and the Dolphins Sunday Night Football.
Yes, sir!
Ooh, okay. So where do we start? Alright, so last week sucked. Last week obviously sucked against a very good 49ers team. It was hard to watch, especially that second half of that game where the team just could not move the ball at all. But now you're going against the Chargers team whose defense is kind of in shambles. Their secondary's beat to crap. Derwin James maybe plays, maybe doesn't play. Also on the offensive side of the ball, Mike Williams has been hurt pretty much all season long. He's probably coming back. Same with Keenan Allen, he's been hurt. They've been dealing with so much injuries. And they've also had a very disappointing season in spite of those injuries. But we need to dominate on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense is bottom third in the NFL, especially in passing, 22nd against the pass in the league. I hope Tua balls out. I really, really hope Tua balls out on prime time against Justin Herbert. And obviously, that's going to be the main conversation. Obviously, the main conversation coming to this game is the 5 against the 6. Was it the right idea for the Dolphins to take him? Or did they blunder it by taking Tua over Herbert? I really hope Tua drops like 303 touchdowns.
Tua is not only dropping 303 touchdowns, he's dropping 450 yards and 5 touchdowns. Write it down. I slammed the table. It's okay.
Yeah, I saw that spike all the way to red. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Sorry for your ears if you're listening with headphones, but 500 or 450 yards.
Just keep going.
Keep going. 700 yards.
Just keep going. Who cares?
450 yards through the air. We haven't had a good
putting Deshaun Watson numbers up here. Oh.
Whoa.
Oh. Not one.
That's it. Not 3. 22. 25.
25 touchdowns. By next week, it might be 30.
I did see a statistic, though, earlier today that said if Tua, despite missing the 2.5 games, if he throws for 228 yards in each of the next games for the rest of the regular season, he throws for over 4,000 yards.
Yes, no, well, that's very much on pace. He's had a great season. He's been in MVP conversations where Herbert hasn't, and there's been a lot of talk this week. Certain Emmanuel Acho, a friend of the team, who's been very supportive of Tua. And he posed a very compelling argument that, at what point is it Herbert's fault for a lot of what we've seen from him? We saw from him in college. It was Cristobal's fault. Now in the NFL, it's Staley's fault. It's Lombardi's fault. It's everybody's fault except Herbert. Even as a Dolphins fan, as a big Tua fan, we gotta be a little honest. I do think still that Herbert is the better of the two quarterbacks. But Tua wins games.
Tua wins
games.
And that's what makes me put Tua a slightly edge over Herbert. Obviously, I would love to have Herbert's just athleticism, his skill set.
All his intangibles.
All his intangibles, exactly. I would love to have that. But when we've seen that he doesn't exactly have the clutch gene. Now, we've seen his ability to have spots of that. But as far as fourth quarter or you're down by a score and with like 5 minutes left, give me Tua over Herbert.
I think that has been slightly overplayed, the lack of a clutch gene, because he does have 4 of their wins this year have been fourth quarter comebacks or quote unquote fourth quarter comebacks, because it is very easily just to throw that in. If they got a touchdown at the beginning of the fourth quarter, they took the lead. That counts as a fourth quarter comeback. He has had that this year. But we did see that at the end of last year, especially with that Raiders game, where the Chargers had no business losing that game. If Herbert makes a couple more throws, they end up winning that game. But I do believe a lot of the Chargers' misfortunes hasn't been his fault. He is just such a good athlete with such a good arm that obviously I want to sit here and bash the guy. We're about to play him on Sunday Night Football. What does he know? He's not that good, but come on. Up till this year, I was telling you that even with Burrow getting to the Super Bowl last year, I still rather have Herbert. All his intangibles are even better than Burrow, let alone with Tua, who, let's be honest, 6 foot, 210 pounds, left-handed short quarterback.
6'1".
Okay, just like you're 6 foot.
I'm 6 foot.
You're not 6 foot.
I'm 6 foot.
You're not 6 foot.
I'm 6 foot, sir.
I'm 6'6". You're definitely 7 inches smaller than me.
Bro, I'm 6 foot.
You are not.
We're going to get measuring tape one of these days?
We are going to get a measuring tape. Hopefully you bring it on Sunday. We will be going live immediately after the game on Sunday. Just a little interruption here. We will be going live immediately after the game from our Airbnb, balling with the boys, watching some games, watching some fantasy football. And one guy that I'm really going to be watching out for in this game that probably is the true story that's going to run away with this game, it's Tyreek Hill. This dude still put up a monstrous performance against the 49ers' best defense in the league, one of the better secondaries in the league. He ate 9 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown. He ate against that defense with Tua having barely any time. He still found a way to get open, get catches, get yards. He's going to go off this week against the Chargers.
Yeah, 100%. And to even add on to that, don't forget, Waddle's still dealing with that lower leg injury after that late hit out of bounds. So he's not 100%. He's been limited all week. He's still going to be a go. He's going to play. But it's really just been Tyreek Hill. Once again, against that defense with so little time, it was a lot of quick throws, and that's what's going to... Tua may actually have time this game, which is crazy to think.
Maybe.
If Teron Armstead plays, as of right now, he is questionable.
Yeah.
Eric Fisher...
I wouldn't count on it.
Eric Fisher, who we just signed, could potentially play left tackle this Sunday. He could even potentially play right tackle this Sunday.
Best case scenario, he's playing right tackle, Armstead's playing left tackle.
That's the best case scenario. And fortunately, it doesn't look like this week he'll be back, but next week, I know how you feel about it, but I'm ecstatic that Liam Eichenberg is actually going to be coming back.
Look at that face and tell me that doesn't look like Liam Eichenberg.
How you doing, guys?
That's Liam Eichenberg, guys. He's back. You'd probably be just as good at left guard, though, as he is.
No, so I watched the tape, and I'm going to be making a video next week about it. Liam Eichenberg isn't as bad as we think he is. Now, when he doesn't have Teron Armstead next to him, he's night and day a different player. That just shows how good Teron Armstead is that he makes other people better. For example, like when you're dealing with the stunts, you need to pass your guy off to your left tackle so you can move back towards the middle to get the guy that's stunting. He hasn't been able to do that with Greg Little, but he can easily do that with Teron Armstead. Teron Armstead kind of helps him out a little bit by grabbing and pulling the guy over because he's just that good.
Armstead is obviously the biggest difference maker
in the offense.
Coming into this game, because you know what you're getting from everybody else. And we saw what it looked like where Nick Bosa was able to go all over our defensive line. It was silly. Nice little disc we got there on the wall.
You like that, guys?
Look at this beautiful studio we have here.
It's beautiful studio. But yeah, just like
Teron Armstead playing versus not playing is going to make a huge difference for this team, and Tua's time to get Tyreek the ball, because I think Tyreek can very much have a very similar game to he had last week. I think he can get 10 catches, 150 yards. I think we can find a way to hit him over the top in the end zone. And something you pointed out yesterday, and that we just talked about a little bit in the Baker Mayfield and the Raiders and Rams video over on JK Productions, link down in the bio, is the fact maybe this might be a home game for the Dolphins.
Yeah,
all the way over in LA. So if Tyreek Hill catches a bomb, I expect that place to explode.
I wouldn't even be surprised if the announcer kind of slips his finger onto their touchdown button.
Yeah, whose house?
Finn's house.
Hopefully it is, and hopefully we don't see more pictures like this, because this was the result of having your 2 tackles out, and already on top of that, not having the best of offensive lines. The defensive front of San Francisco was murdering Tua last week, and it clearly affected him. Even when he had time, that interception he threw where he's trying to hit Tyreek Hill, and he just gift wraps it to, was that Jimmy Ward? No, Jimmy Ward was the other one. Forget who that interception was.
Greenlaw, I think.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. He just gift wraps it to him, not even close to Tyreek. It shows, and it showed because we hadn't seen that for one in weeks now. We hadn't seen a competent defense on the other side able to play us how they should play us, backing those linebackers up and making Tua very uncomfortable, not having his favorable release angle, trying to get the ball over the top in the hands of Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. That made him uncomfortable. And, of course, just the defensive presence, the defensive line. Eric Armstead played, didn't even record a single tackle, but he's on the field. Bosa's on the field. So your time to throw is a lot more limited than it normally be. And that ended up with him on his butt a lot, and it ended up with him just missing throws because you could clearly tell he was rattled last week.
So he was definitely rattled. Now, they did only have 9 pressures. But so what helps the 49ers, and you can watch it on, I went live on this past Wednesday doing a little film review. What helped them keep the linebackers more back and cover those zones better was the fact that their defensive line was so good as to only giving Tua those 2.5, 3 seconds to make our tight ends and our running backs have to block Nick Bosa. Now, Tua did have time more than not. He was only pressured 9 times this game.
It felt more than that,
though. It felt like more than that.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but it just felt like it.
And
maybe that's part of just us witnessing how easily he was rattled. Like, that's something you have to be honest about, is he was rattled very easily in that game, and he was like playing jittery the whole game.
Yeah, and as you guys will see in the film review if you go back and watch it, Tua actually wasn't as off as we initially thought he was. He was throwing like a dime here, then he would miscommunication with his receiver, and then another dime, then he would be off, and then another miscommunication. And so all those miscommunications, now it is on Tua, because that's your job as a quarterback to be one in the same with your receiver. Now, I think that's why Tyreek Hill had as good of a game as he did, because he's always on the same page as Tua. Now, Waddle didn't play that many snaps, being that he was injured for more than half that game because of a late hit that wasn't called. Now, I did see that the officiating was equally bad. They did miss bigger calls against the Dolphins, but it was equally bad throughout the game.
Yeah, it was. It was a rough game all together. That game, but now against the Chargers, you're facing a very different opponent, a defense that's not as good. The 2 biggest threats, I mean, obviously you got to worry about Justin Herbert. Like you know what you're getting from Justin Herbert, but the biggest threats, in my opinion, for the Dolphins is these 2 wide receivers right here, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. The offense are still one for wear at the cornerback position. Obviously, you can trust Xavier, you can trust Kader Kahu, but then you get beyond those guys, and it's like. I'm scared because there's gonna be moments where Keon Crossan is guarding Keenan Allen. There's gonna be moments where I don't think it's gonna be like I don't want to say not on purpose, but what's gonna happen.
If they're in zone,
they're in zone. They're gonna come in motion, even though they don't run a lot of motion. There's gonna be moments where Keenan Allen, we're in zone, they run motion. Next thing you know, Keon Crossan is guarded at either Mike Williams or Keenan Allen.
Man, if you guys watch my film review, you'll see how much I just went off on Josh Boyer, and just the zone coverage that we have is just absolutely god-awful.
It's not gonna cut.
As you recall of what I said last week during a preview for the 49ers, what I worried about in that game was how big their receivers were. Ayuk versus Kader Kohu, I thought he was too tall. I was kind of a little bit.
Ayuk's like built. He's a unit.
He's a unit.
So, and same thing with Debo.
And Debo's even bigger.
Yeah.
And so we saw at that point they didn't really have anybody shadow. It was X on one side, Kader on the other side. So whoever was on that side was guarding whoever. And we did see Kader struggle a little bit. Now he did make up for it in some plays. But in this game, I do want them to shadow, because I want Xavier on Mike Williams. Now, he isn't the better route runner that Keenan Allen is, but Keenan Allen also isn't tall. He's not big. I think Kader, if he can stay step for step with him, which is going to be slightly harder than Mike Williams, I think their size matchup, I really like that one. I think that's going to be the best bet for them defensive-wise.
Yes, no, I definitely agree with that. As much as you can keep Kader and X on the main 2 receivers, and obviously with a little help over the top, that is the best case scenario for the Dolphins. But also then you do have to worry about something I don't have pictured here, is Austin Eckler. Now Eckler, his production has dropped off, which your boy was big brain about in our fantasy football league. He got rid of him when these 2 guys came back. However, he still poses a threat. He is massive. He's a great check down artist, and that I usually use as an insult for Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp catches so many passes within the 5-yard line and sometimes turns it for big gains. But Eckler, you can give it to him, and next thing you know, that's an 8-yard play, and that's what you need sometimes. And Herbert was going to him all the time when these 2 guys were out. the dynamic has changed a bit, and just as a pure running back, he's not as big of a threat, literally and metaphorically as big of a threat.
I was just going to say, he doesn't even get the most carries on his team. It's usually...
They play Josh Kelly a lot.
Josh Kelly.
Sony Michel.
They even have the rookie Isaiah Spiller.
He's played sparingly.
Sparingly. But I think he's like second, third in those carries. And they have a similar issue to the Dolphins where they can't really run the ball up the middle.
Yeah.
That they have to rely on.
They've got to beat up offensive line just as much as we do. Both teams have their strengths. Both teams have their weaknesses, and some are very similar. Obviously, though, like I mentioned earlier, this is the main matchup. Tua, Herbert, call it, Donovan. What's the score line? It's 11:45 Sunday night. What are we looking at?
11:45 Sunday night. The final score would be the Dolphins 42. The Chargers 33.
Dude, that'd be sick. I'm going to go with you definitely are a lot more boisterous, I think is the right way of putting it with your predictions. I like to be a little more conservative because we so often expect a fireworks show and we don't get it. So I'm going to go with 27-21 Dolphins. Drop your score lines down below.
I just realized I meant for mine to be a one-score game and it wasn't.
Yeah, because you suck at math. Drop your predictions down below. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game. Take care, everybody.